Welcome to The Rest is Giant Robots, a conversation through the careers of writer Simon Furman and artist Andrew Wildman. Recollections and revelations about the highs and the lows as creatives in comics, books, games, film and TV.
So, hello.
Hello, Simon. You're shouting.
Yes, and strangely, I'm not. It's your weirdly sensitive ears or something.
Is that what it is? Well, I'm going deaf. I've taken my hearing aids out.
Very strange.
Maybe I should put them back in.
Well, hopefully, I'm not booming on the podcast record.
No, that's all right.
You'll have to modulate me if that's the case.
It's two separate audio tracks that I drop in when I mix it, so I can turn you down.
Great. So, hello to everyone who's joining us for the video segment, I suppose.
That's right. Prime members. Hello, Prime members.
Hello, and don't forget you get all sorts of bonuses and extras for being part of our Prime membership.
What are those bonuses, Simon?
I'm not sure. You get to see us.
You
You
get to
get
see us. You get about 5 or 10 minutes of kind of random chatter that generally people won't hear. Um, so
we
that's
will
kind of like background information.
we
What
will have to
else?
start putting up some bonus material. We keep promising.
Yeah, there is some bonus material up there for any of you who haven't sort of dug back and had a look. I think there are a couple of things that are definitely Prime only. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure we can find some extras as we go along.
I'm sure we can.
So, and you also get to see my wonderful digital backdrop. So,
What's that fit? That massive fist? Was that Red
that's the
Hulk?
Red Hulk. It's
Okay.
basically one of the promo images for Captain America: Brave New World, which is something we're going to be talking about in a bit
Because you've seen it.
because I've seen it and we're doing a movie special.
Yeah, we've got a few we're going to natter through. We've
Yeah,
both seen quite a few of the movies that have come up over the last few months.
yeah.
That'll be cool.
When we get onto the record itself, I'll talk about how I'm more or less incentivizing myself to go to the cinema more.
Incentivizing yourself.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yes. Yeah, you never thought we'd talk about these things on the podcast, but here we are.
So that's what Simon does in the cinema. Um,
So, shall we proceed or anything else we want to talk about? Couple of things I want to talk about just
yeah,
very briefly. And we can mention this again when we do another one where we're talking about comics and stuff. But recently, TF Nation, who do the UK Transformers convention,
yeah.
have recreated from the art and the story and everything issue 4 of War Within Age of Wrath, which was one of the Dreamwave issues that never got published.
Okay.
So you can now find that uh, online. Go to TF Nation and they'll have the link, and you can actually see in its finished form issue 4, the unpublished issue 4 of War Within Age of Wrath. So that's been lovingly recreated. Myself and the artists and the original letterers have all sort of helped out there.
Wow.
So that is up, something that never before really seen in its entirety. I've had bits of the art and I sell the script packs at conventions, but the whole thing has never been seen. So that is now available to view.
So was a lot of the art already done but just not published or
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think the issue was ready to go to the printers or at
oh
the
wow.
printers or something. So it was all done, but the files, the original files were lost. So this was recreated from what artwork we had, what color artwork I had and the artists had. And I think there was some relettering went on to make it because I had the script and things. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was quite a big deal. And David Wallace at TF Nation deserves a big shout out because he really kind of motivated it and made it happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, the last couple of TF Nations, they've done a sort of Dreamwave retrospective chat. I was at the mini con in November,
Hmm.
and then there was another mini con in just happened where they did the sort of similar talk but without me there.
Right. Cool.
So yeah, that's really cool and good old TF Nation. That's sort of one more box ticked for old Dreamwave stuff. And who knows, we might manage to get some unpublished Energon issues out there in the same way. So
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully more to come on that. And what else happened? Oh yes, I went to a really good signing. My sort of one of my most local comic shops is Excelsior Comics in Bristol,
Right.
and they've just moved to new premises. So they invited me and a bunch of other local-ish creators. So we
Hmm.
had Kieran Gillen and Paul Cornell and Cavan Scott and various other, sort of wonderful sort of comics people. All and when they first approached me, I was thinking, how are they going to fit us into that pokey store that they used to have? Lovely store, but small. Anyway,
Yeah.
no, they've moved to an amazing new location, two-story, two floors of comic shop, and yeah, we were upstairs doing a big signing, very well attended, really, really good event. So
Mm.
I'm hopeful we will do more things. Myself or groups of people can do more things at Excelsior. They're a really good bunch.
Wow. That sounds great. A nice little lineup as well.
Yeah, and I don't suppose Bristol's too huge a schlep for you if we wanted to do something.
No, straight down the M5, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's a possible, they were definitely after that thinking, what else could we do there? And they do have the space for it.
Yeah. Good. Well,
You
yeah,
know,
let
may,
them know I'm in.
well, maybe we can do a sort of live podcast, Q&A or something from there. So,
Yeah. Live
anyway,
from Bristol. Yeah.
anyway, shall we begin
Before we
our
do, yeah,
go
before we do that, I'm just going to see if I can, this will make any difference. Right, go in there.
speaking, testing,
Oh,
any
that's a bit,
better?
that's better. The only disadvantage, yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I
I
might
can.
even have to turn you up a bit.
Excellent. Good, good. Well, I can now boom as I'm prone to do.
Do you ever actually listen to the recordings?
Oh yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
listen, do you watch the video?
No, I must admit I don't. I hate watching myself back on screen.
Oh,
No, I
okay.
listen to the records, but I don't often actually watch the video recordings.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. No,
I
that's fair
don't
enough.
love seeing my ugly mug, sort of for
But
40
you're
minutes.
all right with the rest of us putting up with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, fair
Anyway,
enough. I know it's always awkward, isn't it? But yeah, good. Okay.
right. Quick swig of tea.
Whose turn is it to intro?
I believe it's me, so I shall
Okay.
go for it.
All right. Press the button.
Press the button. Click. Welcome to episode 18 of The Rest is Giant Robots. I am Simon Furman, writer on Transformers and a whole heap of other stuff.
And I'm Andrew Wildman, comic book artist on a load of stuff and storyboard artist on film and TV, which is what we're going to about today.
Yeah, we're having one of our little digressions. We've both racked up some movie and TV credits,
Yeah.
or not credits, but sightings. And yeah, we thought we'd do one of those little run through some of the stuff we've seen and voice our largely ignorable opinions on them.
Oh, you sell it so well, Simon.
Well, we should say these are just our opinions.
Yeah, they
You
are. Well,
go,
they're reasonably well-informed
they
opinions.
are, yes, yeah, yeah.
I mean, we've been around long enough to know what makes a good movie and what doesn't.
We have indeed, and yeah, I was saying in our little video only members only preamble that I have, and this made Andrew laugh, incentivized myself to go to the cinema more by joining the sort of my local cinema's loyalty program. So you pay a
Ah,
month and it gives you unlimited access for that month. So,
mm,
it's almost a, you know, even though there's not much in it for one ticket versus 1 month's membership, it pushes you to use it a little more. So, and there's other discounts and offers and things.
yeah.
So I am now much more, you know, once a week, twice, once a fortnight, I will go and see something at the cinema because I love it.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Do you want to give the cinema a shout out? Which cinema is it?
Yeah, my local cinema is the Odeon in
Okay.
Trowbridge, and
Okay.
that is where we tend to, I or we tend to go. And it's great because sometimes there are films my lovely other half doesn't really want to go and see, like Captain America.
Yeah.
So I will just take myself and enjoy.
Yeah. Just go and incentivize yourself. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, in the dark.
It's good. So if you go like twice a month, then that's more than paid
Yeah,
for it.
more than, yes. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And there's other offers. You get a little bit off your refreshments
Yeah.
and you get occasionally advanced screenings of things. They'll open a cinema early for a film so you can go and send a little, you know, book now ahead of time.
Okay.
So yeah, it's quite a good little deal.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, I'm a member of, as mentioned before, I found a member of the small cinema here in Chipping Norton. It's called the Living Room Cinema. Um, two screens, roughly 50 seats per screen, but they're armchairs. It's very,
Mm.
very comfortable. I paid, well, the first year when I was a founder member, it was very expensive, but consecutive years, it's £750 a year,
Mhm.
and I can go whenever I like, plus one. So I get free plus one as
Well,
well.
yeah,
So if me and
that does
Leslie,
make it worth it.
it does, yeah. So if I go with Leslie, my wife, or a friend, it's fine, and I get concession on drinks and food, all that kind of thing. And also with grandchildren, a kids' film comes along, and I'll take them along, which is good. So, but I desperately want to go and see Flow, the Oscar-winning animation
Okay.
feature. And I hadn't, and I arranged to go and see it with a couple of grandchildren. Then it turns out they're away. It's during the Easter holidays, so.
Mm.
So Leslie, my better half, is going to come, although she wouldn't normally see an animation. I said, no,
Okay.
you've got to see this one. This is not necessarily a kid's film.
No,
So we're going out and
no,
see
no.
that.
There are some good animations that aren't just sort of pitched, at very young kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And Flow being one of them. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Well, I shall look out for that myself.
Hmm.
So
Right.
shall we kick in with what we've been watching? I think,
Yeah.
we cross over quite a bit on some of the things, and there's maybe one or two you've seen I haven't, and
Yeah.
one I
Likewise.
haven't. But you know, tracking backwards, the last thing I went to see at the cinema a couple of weeks back was Anora, which got a re-release because of all the Oscar sort
Yeah.
of flurry of awards, and we'd missed it first time round, and this time we thought, okay, yeah, great. Look, if it's sort of swept the board, as they say at the Oscars, we'll go along and see it.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed it. You've seen it, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
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 I would say I enjoyed it, but I struggled a bit with the sweeping the board at the Oscars kind of level of it. I mean, I thought it was great, enjoyed it. I hadn't expected it to be as funny as it was.
Yeah.
It really is funny. I didn't quite know what to expect, and suddenly it turns into this really funny comedy,
Hmm.
which I really enjoy. So it's kind of like first half an hour or so, you're sort of going, okay, fine, are we going to get anywhere with the story? And then suddenly it sort of really kicks in, and
Hmm.
I thoroughly enjoyed it from that point. And it reminded me a lot of a film called After Hours, an 80s film,
Right.
where I think it's the guy from American Wealth in London, Griffin Dunn, I think his name is. He basically just goes out for a night in Manhattan, and stuff happens to him. It's all filmed over one night, and it's
Yeah.
just sort of relentless. It's, the night just keeps getting worse for him. He's just out in New York. It's brilliant film. If you haven't seen it, find it. It's called
Okay.
After Hours. But it reminded me of that once it got going, that it just sort of didn't stop really,
Yeah.
and just kept cranking it up.
Yeah. Relentless kind of energy.
Mm.
That opening, I think it's the opening scene where the lead is in the club where she's just like, turning tricks in the club and trying to get people to go to the booth and all that kind of thing. That was all ad-libbed. She ad-libbed a whole lot of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Mm,
the director had set up all these people and there were a lot of extras in the club, but he dropped in some actors, and all the only direction he would give apparently is he would say, okay, now go and talk to that person, and she just had to like play the club. So she'd just go up to these people and then would try to get into conversation with them to try to kind of up their, what they were paying, and go to one of the booths. And yeah, apparently all ad-libbed. And I think it's that kind of thing that won her the
mm.
Oscar. I mean, as a
And
movie, I thought once it got going, like you say, yeah, it's full on. It reminded me of kind of like a Guy Ritchie film or something like
mm.
that.
I mean, I thought Mikey Madison, was really good, or
Yeah,
Mikey. I yeah, right.
Mikey.
How,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought she was really good, and she had, real appeal, charm, and all that, and
Mm.
and very naturalistic and all that. So I thought she was really good, and so yes, maybe deserving of the actress Oscar, but I'm not sure the film itself was kind of what I'd call Oscar, but it was really enjoyable. But I mean, who knows?
What would you say? Because the other thing with the Oscars is it's not how good a film is, it's how good it is compared to all the other offerings of that
True.
year. So it's all relative.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure what the other films it was up against were.
Yeah. Substance was another big one. Look, female lead films
Mm,
that were
that's
really
good.
kind of punching high. So there was some good stuff. The
Mm,
other thing about offerings from the year was there were a lot of films that because of the Oscars they have got a lot of attention and then made a lot of money. But prior to the Oscars, a lot of movies are struggling to make money and a lot of films have lost money.
mm,
So we've been in a period of culturally amazing films, very different films, almost like art house films, great cinema, not dominated by Marvel, etc.,
mm.
but not as many bums on seats.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it was up for Oscars, but I would have said as a film, A Complete Unknown was a much better film than Anora. But hey, maybe it's personal taste. But I found that, which is another one I think we've both seen, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
I found that a brilliant cinematic experience. It was one of those ones where I thought this needed to be seen in a cinema with the sound, and you're just sort of, it pulls you into the film
uh-huh,
really well.
yeah. I'm not a big fan of those kind of biopics,
Mm.
impersonation lead character.
Okay.
I mean, it was good, and he was good
Mm.
in many, many ways. But I've just basically, I'm not. I like Rocket Man, all those kind of things. Bohemian
Yeah.
Rhapsody. Don't
Ah,
you know?
okay. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy Bohemian Rhapsody. Haven't seen Rocket Man, but I just thought Complete Unknown, given that there's not actually a great deal of story,
Hmm.
it's just him. You don't learn much about him. I guess that's the idea. You just, but I just found it one of those very immersive, evocative, the feel, and the time they got really well, of New York in those days.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest Bob Dylan fan, but I thoroughly enjoyed the music, and yeah, I found that more of a cinematic experience than say Anora.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Well, there you go. And
Mm.
I'm sure there are many others that feel the same. But. It kind of
Yeah,
lands as it lands, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah, yeah. But I did enjoy that, and I went. I love my vinyl, so I did go out and buy a sort of Bob Dylan best of essential Bob Dylan LP,
Okay.
just to sit and listen to at home. Because again, I don't think I've really given his music the time maybe it deserved.
No, I was never a Bob Dylan fan. I mean, lyrically, yes, amazing, but musically, I could never really get into it. I found really fascinating about his story, because I didn't really know that much about him, was how young he was when he turned up in New York. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, he was really young, and that's a long time ago,
Yeah.
and he's still around. So as a piece of, musical culture, etc., it is fascinating and
Yeah.
groundbreaking.
Yeah.
He,
Good.
yeah, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy that. So, and what about you? What else have you seen?
I finally got around to seeing Alien Romulus.
Oh, yeah, which we talked about last time.
They didn't, yeah. So I'll just touch on that one briefly because I'm sure everybody's seen it and has an opinion. But so for some reason they didn't screen it in our local cinema. I did ask them, so what is Alien Romulus coming? And they're saying no. And because they're a small cinema, they're very limited as to how many films,
Yeah.
they can show. And because they're only in their second year, they're still really trying, not finding their feet, but trying to work out what will sell to the demographic in Chipping Norton and surrounding areas is a tricky
Mm.
one because it's such a mixed area.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, everybody thinks of Chipping Norton as like, the Chipping Norton set and all kind of posh Oxfordshire people. And I mean, there is some of that, but it's also very much a working town
Hmm.
with a really wide demographic. So they struggle with that. Anyway, they didn't show Alien Romulus, so I did catch it in the end on TV, on streaming TV. I paid to watch it. I thought it was great. I know that it's a lot of people like it, but it's also had a lot of criticism that it's just a basically box ticking exercise. Like, oh, we're going to make an alien film. We'll do this. We'll rip this thing off from that alien film, this thing off from that alien film, all that kind of thing. Yeah, fine. I mean, I get all of that, but like, what else would you do? I think,
Hmm.
in the wake of Prometheus, it's like, yeah, you can go completely, large on it, or you can just do what the original intention of
Hmm.
Alien was and give it the same kind of vibe. So in many ways, it was a remake. Um, but given how long, like to people of our age, Alien doesn't really seem all that long ago. I mean, I was 18 when I think when I saw it in the cinema. Um, but I mean, the current cinema going generation either won't have seen it, or when they have seen it, they'll think, yeah, it's great, but it's really old and it looks really shit and the effects are not that good and whatever. So it has been massively updated in that sense. But the thing that stood out for me in terms of essentially what a Gen Z alien movie
Hmm.
is the female lead, how different the female lead was. I mean,
Yeah.
Alien was applauded for having a strong female lead character, which back in the, late 70s was, there weren't, it was
Hmm.
always about the male lead. So that was great. But if you look back on it, the way that that strong female lead was played was, in hindsight, not particularly woke.
No.
Stepping into a spacesuit in her knickers, that upshot. It's like, guys, come on. I mean, I guess it was fine at the time, and I'm not saying I
Yeah.
didn't like it. Um, but
Yeah.
um, but you couldn't get away with that these days. So I liked the way that they had definitely the strong female lead,
Hmm.
but definitely a young woman of our time. It was
Yeah.
it was about the strength of the woman and not just the fact that she was female or any of those,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I think as I said last time, my thing was I could see it was aimed at the Gen Z younger audience just because out goes build up, suspense, you know, 10 minutes in, there's 100 face huggers, sort of, it's just like, blop, there you go, there's the aliens. So, it was just no sort of slow build of suspense,
No, I
it
guess
just,
so.
it felt it was aimed at, attention span is sort of less than it used to be, or ability just to sort of wait for the shocks and surprises.
Hmm. I guess I guess the other thing with a franchise like that is um, even a new audience are thinking we know what's coming. Just like bring it
Mm,
on. Like
yeah.
what you don't have to drag it
Yeah.
out. Just come on.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it too. I just, like I said, I just thought, it's the trouble is they're boxing themselves into a corner with this because what can they do now? Just
Sure.
300 face huggers, sort of, it just, it kind of, I don't quite see where they go with it, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was fine.
Maybe they don't go anywhere. I mean, maybe that's
Uh,
it. Or maybe now that they've established the new normal, and then they go off in a different direction, but inside of that
yeah.
kind of
And they're
sensibility.
doing a TV series, aren't they? Isn't there a
Of course they are.
Alien Earth or something? And it's set,
Right.
around the times or before the original movie or between the original two movies.
Yeah.
But yes, I think there's a TV show coming. So it'd be interesting to see how it works in a more sort of expanded TV
Mm.
episode format.
Yeah. Yeah. There will have to be more plot lines. There'll have to be deeper characters.
Yeah.
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 Cool.
Yeah. And so, yeah, what else? Okay, I don't think you have seen it, but I went to see, because I always go and see the Marvel movies at the cinema. I went to see Captain America: Brave New World.
Cool. No, I
And
haven't seen it. No.
no, no, yeah. So, I mean, I always like to see them on a big screen because I do think they are diminished on the small screen. And if it's a less good movie, you're not going to enjoy it as much.
Hmm.
So, you know, some of them hold up on TV, some of them not so much. But anyway, I always try and see them first run at the cinema. So, and I'd already, I really, the trouble with the internet now is you just almost can't avoid, you know, immediate feedback. And oh, there was apparently it got a terrible review from some American critic, and on and on. And a lot of the criticisms were, well, the plot's a bit incomprehensible. He isn't quite sort of lead man material. Anyway, actually, I thought, well, don't go and see it, judge for yourself. And I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed it. I thought
Great.
it was one of the punchier, better, fabulously only 2 hours long, which I do feel they wibble on too much these days. So it was 2 hours and I found it really enjoyable. I thought it right from the start. I didn't find it plot-wise difficult. It's slightly weirdly a sequel to the Incredible Hulk movie, not the very first one, not the Ang Lee one, but the next one. And
Which was Edward Norton, that one?
Edward Norton, yes. And
Yeah.
it's kind of, picks up plot threads from that, except you got Harrison Ford as Thunderbolt Ross, who's become President Ross, instead of William
Hmm.
Hurt, who sadly died. So, it's basically picks up strands of that. So I've got to say, unless you've seen that film, you might have been a bit confused with who some of the characters were. But
Okay.
other than that, I just found it really enjoyable. I thought he was very good. I thought Harrison Ford, I was expecting a kind of phoned in slightly performance, but he was good. And, the visual effects, especially the Red Hulk, I thought were brilliantly done.
Yeah.
And yeah, just generally, I found it okay. Yeah, that ticked a lot of boxes for me. Very, full on, exciting. And yeah, I for the first time in ages, I've seen, the recent crop of Marvel movies just slightly haven't been to my taste, but this was
Mm.
much more back to a level for me.
Okay.
So yeah, you
Yeah.
often can't listen to the pre-reviews and things.
No, and I think, I mean, it's inevitable these. Obviously, we didn't have that in the old days. So, like I was saying with Alien, back when Alien first came out, there was nobody knew anything about it. There'll be a couple of stills, but that was it. So you could have a slow burn and then a massive shock. Um, but these days, there's so much,
Mm,
pre-publicity on social media and all that kind of thing, and then opinions come out very soon from people who've seen it, whether they're, proper critics or just armchair critics. And unfortunately, that forearms you for the things that you're going to spot that you're then automatically either
mm.
going to like or dislike.
Yeah.
So, and very often I find many films deserve a second viewing. I mean, I know it costs a lot of money to do that, but
Mm,
I've seen films that I was, you know, okay about first time round, but then a friend wanted to go, so I take them because it's free tickets. The second
mm,
time round, I've got all my prejudice and pre-informed opinions out of the way, and you just watch it for the
mm.
narrative. And
Yeah.
very often you think, oh right, I get it now.
Yeah.
Um,
And I slightly felt that with those two alien films, Prometheus and the other one. I can't think of but those, I found when I saw
yeah.
those at the cinema, I was very indifferent. When I saw them again on sort of TV, I found them much more enjoyable. I got more out of them.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. No, it's good. I probably won't go and see the Captain America film. I don't
Hmm.
even know if I'll see it when it comes on TV. But that is kind of, I don't know. I kind of enjoy them when I do see them, but it's not my Marvel in as much
No.
as Marvel means a certain thing to me from childhood and early days of drawing it, and this is something else, and it's great,
Hmm.
and it's good that it's out there. It does dominate too much, but I don't find they're about it much.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean,
It's
if you don't
popcorn
see that,
movie, which is great, yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you don't see that, you could always go and see Bridget Jones Mad About the Boy for a fourth time or third time, is it?
It would be.
How,
Yeah, I've
how
seen
many
that
times?
twice. Yeah.
How many times have you seen it?
You know that thing I said about films are sometimes better when you see them the second time. It doesn't apply in all cases.
No, we went to see it too. It was just on, and there was nothing particularly better, so we went to see it, and I would say we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But yes, if I never see it again, it will be too soon.
It's just what has become a classic British comedy.
Mm,
Everything from Four Weddings and a Funeral onwards is just, it's like, okay, we get it now. We know you know, what a British comedy is, and it's a lot of that, and it's very well constructed. But
yeah, and it
but
has
I
very
mean,
fun.
seeing it in the local cinema here twice, the same thing occurred both times in terms of who else was in there watching it, and it's a lot
Yeah.
of women of a certain age
Mm.
with large glasses of white wine going in to see it.
The funny thing is, in when I saw it, there were a lot of young people there watching it, and there were girls who were almost sobbing in bits of it, and I thought, what? Really? Are we watching different films or something?
Yeah, well,
I
I
just didn't.
think yeah,
I didn't get any emotional vibe from it at all. It did feel like, as you say, traditional British comedy, Love
yeah.
Actually, all that kind of stuff.
I guess the note that it hits for well, not just women, but because the lead is a woman, the note it hits is all those kind of concerns and things that a woman has that obviously, for the most part, we don't immediately recognize those. But
Yeah.
if you talk to a woman about what they got from them or what moved them and what amused them, it will be things that you'll think, oh yeah, I hadn't really noticed that. Because it's speaking to a slightly different audience, isn't it?
Yeah,
But there you go.
indeed. But anyway, we shall skip over that one
We'll
quickly
skip over
and
that. Yeah.
yeah. So what else have we seen? I also saw, and I think you've seen Nosferatu, the new version of
Yes.
that.
I yes. What was your take on that?
I'm afraid I found it slightly laughable. I thought it was very handsomely, put together. You know, again, seeing it on the cinema, big screen, I thought the set design and all that was great. But then there were just bits I found, I'm sure they weren't meant to be funny, but I just found them funny. And, his sort of weird Middle European language was sometimes just, what is he saying? I sometimes couldn't understand the dialogue. Um, I think it looked great, but other bits felt like bad hammer. And it slightly
Hmm.
started to remind me of that spoof vampire film that Roman Polanski did called The Fearless Vampire Killers or Hunters, one of the two.
Okay.
Which sort of, somewhat parodies the whole sort of hammer genre. And
Hmm.
and that was what I got out of it. It just kept making me laugh in places. And there's just utter, bonkers bits where he turns up at this gypsy village, and it's just like they're all having a good old song and dance. And then, oh, look, because we've got a guest, we're going to take a virgin out to the forest and stake a vampire because that's what we do every night. It, it just some bits just made me howl with laughter.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I expected great things from it, because of the director and because it was a remake of Nosferatu as opposed to Dracula.
Mm,
I mean, the original Nosferatu, um, I think was made because of rights issues. So it's essentially the Dracula story, but they had to change all the names.
mm,
Um, and then what they came up with in the look of the character for the original Nosferatu was strange and terrifying. And
mm.
the way that Murnau filmed it with all those kind of long shadows and all that kind of thing
Yeah.
was very, very stylish. So I was thinking, okay, if somebody's going to do a remake of Nosferatu, what's their version of Nosferatu, the character?
Mm,
Because expecting it to be something like that from the original Murnau film. Um, but so that disappointed me. It was just this
mm.
big slab of a character just in
Yeah.
shadow. Could have been,
Yes.
yeah, it could have
Yeah.
been, the guy from the Munsters.
Yeah.
It didn't
It
really
felt like
land for
a
me.
it felt like a missed opportunity to
It
me.
did
And
really,
I guess,
and also this big screen thing. Yeah, great to see movies on the big screen. But then it kind of went with the current trend, and it was shot in 4:3, so it
mm,
wasn't full width. So
yeah.
okay, I get that, but feel a bit cheated as I'm watching it on a widescreen. Um,
Yeah.
but basically, the Dracula story doesn't need to be done again.
No.
It's like
And
all I found myself doing through Nosferatu was just spotting the characters. It's like,
mm,
oh right, yeah, so that's Dracula. Oh right, so that's Lucy. Oh right, so that's
yes.
you know
Yeah.
Harker, Jonathan Harker. Um,
And I
and
thought it
other
was a
than
bit
that,
I thought it was a bit slavishly bound to the original film. I think it could have just taken more risks with the story because it was almost like,
yeah,
okay, now they're going to do this, and sure enough, they do that. Oh, now he's going to do that. I just felt I knew maybe I've just seen too many versions of Dracula, but I felt I'd rather go and watch that slightly weird one with Gary Oldman, sort of again,
yeah,
than Keanu Reeves, which which actually had at least a bit of we'll try and do something different and a bit sort of weirdly stylish with it.
yeah. But didn't you feel that that Aaron Taylor Johnson's portrayal was as laughable as Keanu Reeves, Jonathan Harker?
Yes,
It
yeah.
was the same. It was just this weird, cod, posh English
Mm,
accent. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, he's English as well,
I know.
but,
And
but I mean,
and
he's a proper London boy, and it just sounded ridiculous.
And Willem Dafoe, was it like he was in a different movie to everyone else? And that's where I started to think he should have been in that sort of spoof version of this. He'd have been great in it. So
Hmm.
yeah, if that too many elements just didn't gel for me on that one.
No, female lead stole it for me though.
She was great. Yeah, Lily Rose Depp is
Yeah,
Lily Rose Depp. And I thought she
yeah,
was the best thing about it by a country
definitely.
mile.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I thought she did a great performance, and all the kind of twisting and stuff
Mm.
she's doing. It's
Oh,
like I want to see a movie where everybody is in the movie that she's that
yes.
she's in, you know,
Yeah. But wow,
not the kind of
but,
hammy rest of it, you know.
but she's just not on screen enough, really. There's far
No.
too much of the others, especially who are, and I like Nicholas Hoult, but the whole interminable journey to and from the castle. Well, in fact, the journey to the castle takes ages, and then suddenly he's back there in 5 seconds flat. It's like, how did that happen? So yes, there too many of those kind of issues were rearing their heads while I was watching it for me to sit and
Yeah,
enjoy it.
yeah. But if there's one good reason to see it, it's because of Depp. Yeah, she's great.
Yes, yeah, agreed. Any others you want to sort of pull up? That's my
Yeah,
sort of cinema going list.
yeah. Well, I've got three on here. I won't spend too long on them. A Real Pain, Jesse Eisenberg film.
Hmm.
Really, really good. I mean, quite a very gentle film, written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg, which is
Hmm.
great. And starring Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. Kieran Culkin is really good in it, and he won the Oscar for supporting
Okay.
male, didn't he? A very quiet film. It's about these two cousins that go off to honor the memory of their aunt or great aunt, and it taps into in Poland, so it taps into the whole kind of memory of the the apocalypse and the
Okay.
Nazis and how there's a lot of he's a Jew and whatever. But so that's kind of the premise. But
Mm.
the relationship between Jesse Eisenberg's character and Kieran Culkin's character is just so beautifully played
Mm.
and funny and wacky and all sorts of things. A very gentle movie, but definitely worth a watch.
I'll have
Not
to catch that.
necessarily big screen,
I'll
but
have to
definitely
catch it on
supporting.
streaming, definitely.
Um, the other one that I went to see, we went to a pre-release screening that they had at the cinema here, which was great. It was a members
Mm.
only thing, which I was really looking forward to. Was Black Bag
Oh,
with
okay.
Michael Fassbender, Kate Blanchett, um,
And
Ramissa, Marissa, and the music's really cool. The style of the movie is so slick in a very kind of almost neo 60s style, and it's a kind of a espionage movie. So I thought all the elements are great as it started, but I didn't like it at all.
okay.
It's basically ends up being like a cross between a classic espionage, almost like George Smiley kind of, John le Carre movie, and Agatha Christie. It's just
Mm.
working out who the villain is, people sitting around a table,
Mm.
lots of red herrings all over the place. The performances are fine. Fassbender is basically playing a similar character to the one where he was an assassin, his other recent film.
Yeah.
Um, Kate Blanchett was just, I don't know. I don't know what choices she made about how she's going to play it, but it's just odd.
Yeah.
Marissa Abel, the lady that played Amy Winehouse in the Amy Winehouse biopic,
Mm.
she was good. She was very
Yeah.
good. Tom Burke from
Yeah.
Tom
Strike.
Burke Strike, yeah. Um, he was Tom Burke. He was
Hmm.
basically the same character, but he was good. Um, Naomi Harris, who plays Moneypenny in the Bond movies, she was good. Um, Ragged John Page, who was in Bridgerton,
Okay.
he was fine. But there were no real standout performances
No.
at all. And I got to the end, I was just thinking, okay, thanks. Pierce Brosnan's in it as a with a kind of a cameo, extended cameo. He's
All
kind of
right.
good because he's Pierce
Yeah.
Brosnan. But
Yeah.
so I stylishly great. It didn't
Mm.
hold me at all. I didn't believe any of the characters.
No, that's not
Um,
good.
Well, another the other film that I have seen, and I've seen it twice, and it I enjoyed it as much the second time around, is Mickey 17.
Okay, yeah, I've not seen that.
Yeah, and they struggled to sell tickets for that here initially, but now I think currently, I don't know if it's this week, certainly last week, it was number one in the UK box office.
Mm.
And it's like, wow, that's really interesting because it's Bong Joon-ho, the guy that did Parasite. Remember that Parasite
Yes,
Korean
absolutely.
movie?
Mm.
Not that it's anything like that at all, though.
No.
It's sci-fi. It's funny. It's engaging, but mostly I think it's intriguingly amusing. Robert Pattinson is really good in it. The
Mhm.
premise being that he there are multiples of him
Yes.
in it, and the two key multiples of him, he plays them very differently, and it's not until you see him play one of them differently you think, wow, he's really good.
Mm.
I'd kind of taken for granted how he was playing the other version, and now he's like, this is amazing. Um, uh, who else is in it? Toni Collette is in
Yeah.
it. She's great, just
Mm.
massively kind of hamming it up.
Mm.
And what's the guy's name? The guy that played the Hulk in the recent Marvel movies. What's his name?
Yes.
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark
Yes.
Ruffalo's in it. He's
Yeah.
massively chewing the scenery. It's just like so over the top, but just absolutely
Okay.
wonderfully over the top. Almost like a kind of like Trump on the steroids. It's hilarious.
Wow.
But it's a good film. It's an interesting film. It's really nicely shot and, a kind of nice little message thread. So I would
Hmm.
recommend that one.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, just very quickly, I also caught up with on streaming Conclave, which you mentioned last time, and I
Yes.
really enjoyed that, except, I feel it didn't quite, it built up lots of things that never came to anything, really. It was just sort of, oh, I thought there's going to be a mystery here, but there really wasn't. That kind of thing. But I enjoyed the film, looked really good and good performances. And I
Did you
also
like the
caught,
reveal at the end?
No.
It's no. It's a
No,
very
I found
love it or hate it.
we've entered woke country all of a sudden. It just felt a bit, really. I really was expecting more of a twist that had actually been, just not out of left field. It
Mm,
seeded a lot of things. And then the actual twist was, okay, well, I didn't see that coming because there's been absolutely no hint of that or
yeah.
clue to that. So, yeah,
I
I
guess
wasn't
that's kind of the
wowed.
point, though, isn't it? It's kind of the
Yeah,
point. You're stuck in that, archaic ritual, almost predictable outcome ritual, and then suddenly something happens that is so out of left field that it's like, yeah, you need to break the system to have any meaningful change, given how, you know, broken that whole system is anyway, but doesn't admit it.
yeah. I mean, I just felt they seeded so much that I would have been more interested in seeing, that it turns, the twist turns out to be this or that, which I don't want to spoil for anyone, but
Yeah.
I felt it sort of, in a way, it was a bit of a, you know, con in terms of we're going to make you think this, we're going to make you think that, and then it's this. So,
They put the con in conclave. They definitely put the con in
yes,
conclave then.
they absolutely did. And I also caught up with Heretic, the Hugh Grant
Yes.
movie, which you've seen, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
which I thought was bonkers but fun in a kind of weird, weird way. And it just happens, it all happens in one of those houses that only exist in horror movies.
Yeah. The whole thing was a fever dream, wasn't it?
Yes. It's just like, but I thought some of the questions it poses
Yeah.
were really interesting and intriguing, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, yeah, I like that. And but then of course, yeah, it just sort of slightly goes to, wow, It's just totally bonkers, the whole
It
thing.
does. It does go completely bonkers. But prior to it going bonkers, yeah, the conversations between the
Mm.
two young women that turn up, to try and convert him from the what were they, Latter-day Saints, weren't they?
Yeah,
Um,
or Mormons, was it?
yes, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Um, so they're kind of saying all their stuff, which is great, and then he starts, talking about his view of all that kind of stuff, which I thought was
Yeah.
incredibly well written
Yes.
and delivered. It's like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah. And I love it when he starts talking about the air that I breathe and people taking, sort
yeah,
of making versions of that.
yeah,
So I thought it was very well written in
yeah,
large chunks of it, and then it just had this sort of bonkers horror film tacked onto it.
but very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's always good to see Hugh Grant play against type. I
yeah.
like it when he's, sort of, oh, that's not the Hugh Grant we know. That's not the sort of, slightly dipsy kind of
Oh
Brit.
yeah. But he's like, in some ways, for me, he's like, I mean, completely different, but he's like Matthew McConaughey. There's like the original version of Hugh Grant or Matthew McConaughey and the kind of movies they did, like rom-coms and whatever.
Mm,
And then there's the version you have now where they're like really chunky, juicy roles and they
mm,
give it real heft
yes.
and brilliant, both
And
of them.
Hugh
Yeah,
and Hugh Grant did get typecast
he
very
did. Yeah,
quickly, didn't he, with Four Weddings? So,
yeah.
it's good to see him breaking out of that and, as you say, doing more scenery chewing kind of roles.
Yeah, yeah, which he very, very definitely does. Everything
Yeah.
from Wonka to Heretic,
Yes. Yeah.
massively different, but still him, still wonderfully him.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Anyway, yeah. So those were a couple of catch-up ones, and maybe another time. I think we're running towards the end of our time on this one, but another
Yeah.
time we'll talk a little bit more about streaming TV because there's a few things I'm watching now I think
Mm.
are worthy of a discussion.
Yeah, very definitely. There's a lot of content out there, and yeah, it'd be nice to pick through a few
Yeah,
of those. Brilliant.
indeed. Great. Well, good talking to you as always.
Likewise.
And next time we'll be back to more of the well, we might actually have some giant robots in the next one. You never know.
Yeah, but this podcast is about so many things, and then the rest is giant robots.
Exactly. Yes. There we go. God, you think we thought a lot about this when we named it.
Yeah, brilliant. Awesome. All right, Simon, thank you very
Excellent.
much. Thanks everyone
Well,
for listening. See you soon.
bye for now.
Bye. Thank you for listening to The Rest is Giant Robots. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider subscribing for more and maybe share with like-minded friends. This has been a Wildfur production.